Was 19 years old, a sophomore in college, when I returned home for winter break, with my heart full of excitement and my suitcase full of gifts I had bought for my family, completely unaware that my life was about to be turned upside down in the most humiliating way possible. I'd been studying for exams for 3 weeks straight, barely sleeping, barely eating, and all I wanted was to sleep in my own bed, in my own room, surrounded by my own things, and feel safe and loved for just a few weeks before heading back to the chaos of university life. I walked through the front door of my childhood home, called out, "Mom! Dad, I'm home!" and waited for the warm embrace that I had been craving for months. But instead of hugs and smiles, I was met with awkward silence and nervous glances between my parents. That made my stomach drop with immediate dread. My mother finally spoke, her voice shaky and uncertain, and she said, "Sarah, sweetheart, we need to tell you something. Your cousin Jessica has been going through a difficult time, and she needed a place to stay, so we gave her your room. We moved your things into the garage. We hope you understand. She really needs this more than you do right now." I stood there in the hallway, frozen, my suitcase slipping from my hands and crashing onto the floor as I processed what she had just told me, and I felt something inside me crack open, because this wasn't just a room they had given away. This was my sanctuary, my safe space, the only place in the world that had ever felt like mine, and they had handed it over to someone else without even asking me first. I walked slowly toward my bedroom, my footsteps echoing through the silent house, and when I opened the door, I found Jessica sleeping in my bed, her clothes thrown across my chair, her makeup scattered across my desk, and all my belongings and my books, my photos, my childhood treasures, were gone, replaced by the presence of someone who had been given everything I had worked for without a second thought. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't argue or beg or plead or try to explain why this was wrong, because what was there to explain? They had already made their choice, already decided that my cousin's temporary problems were more important than my permanent sense of belonging, and no amount of tears or arguments was going to change that. I walked to the garage, found my belongings shoved into boxes like garbage, packed everything I could fit into my car, and drove away from that house without saying goodbye to anyone, because I knew in that moment that the family I had grown up with no longer existed. They had been replaced by strangers who didn't care about me, didn't value me, and didn't even think twice about destroying my sense of home. I didn't go back home after that winter break. Not for spring break, not for summer, not for holidays, not even when my mother called me crying on Christmas Eve and begged me to come home and be a family again. I told her in the calmest voice I could manage, "I don't have a home to go back to. You gave it away to someone else. You made your choice, and I made mine." I hung up the phone, deleted their numbers, and focused entirely on building a life for myself that didn't depend on them. A life where I would never have to beg for a place to belong or a room to call my own. I worked 3 jobs throughout college, graduated with honors, and went to law school on a full scholarship, because I was determined to prove that I didn't need anyone's help, didn't need anyone's approval, and certainly didn't need the people who had thrown me away like I was nothing. I became a criminal defense attorney, one of the best in the state, and I built a reputation for taking cases that no one else would touch and winning them, against all odds, because I understood what it felt like to be abandoned, to be judged, to be told that you weren't worth fighting for. 3 years passed, 3 long years of silence between me and my family, and I had stopped thinking about them almost entirely because I had built a new life, a new family of friends and colleagues who actually loved me and respected me. But then, on a random Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number, and when I answered, it was my mother's voice, trembling, crying, broken, and she said, "Sarah, please, I know we haven't spoken in years, but I need your help. Jessica has been arrested for fraud. She stole money from her employer, and she's facing serious jail time. We don't have anyone else to turn to. You're a lawyer. Please help her. She's family." I sat in my office, staring at the phone, feeling the anger and the hurt and the betrayal flood back into my chest like they had never left, and I took a deep breath before I responded with the coldest, calmest voice I could muster. I said to my mother, "You want me to help Jessica? The same Jessica who took my room, my home, my sense of belonging without a second thought? The same Jessica who you chose over your own daughter?" My mother started sobbing, apologizing, begging, telling me that they had made a terrible mistake, that they had been wrong, that they regretted everything. and that they would do anything to make it right if I would just help them now. I let her cry for a few minutes, let her apologize and plead and promise, and then I said, "I'm a criminal defense attorney, Mother. I take cases that I believe in, and I do not take cases for people who have stolen from their employers or from their families. Jessica will have to find someone else to represent her, because I won't be stepping anywhere near that courtroom." My mother screamed, "But she's your cousin! She's family! How can you turn your back on family?" And that's when I lost my composure, just for a moment, and I said, "Family? You want to talk about family? Let me remind you, I was family when I came home from college and you had given my room away. I was family when you moved my belongings into the garage like garbage. I was family when you didn't even ask me before you replaced me with someone else. You made your choice 3 years ago, Mother, and that choice was Jessica over me. Now you have to live with that choice." I hung up the phone, blocked her number again, and went back to work because I had no interest in helping the people who had hurt me the most, no matter how much they cried or begged or apologized. I later found out that Jessica had been convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison, and my parents had to sell their house to pay for her legal fees. The same house where they had given away my room, the same house that had once been my home, and now it was gone because of the choices they had made. They tried to reach out to me multiple times over the next few months, leaving voicemails and sending letters, but I never responded because I had already given them 19 years of my life, and that was more than they ever deserved. Today, I am a successful attorney with a beautiful apartment in the city, a group of friends who treat me like family, and a peace of mind that I never had when I was constantly fighting for approval from people who were never going to give it. I don't think about my parents or Jessica very often anymore because there's no point in dwelling on people who chose to hurt you. No point in holding on to anger that only poisons your own happiness, but I also don't pretend that I have forgiven them because some wounds are too deep and some betrayals are too fundamental to ever fully heal. My parents still send me birthday cards and Christmas gifts, still leave voicemails telling me they miss me and love me and want me to come home, but I don't open the cards, don't listen to the voicemails, and don't consider that house my home, because it stopped being my home the moment they gave my room away to someone else without even asking me. I learned a painful but powerful lesson from all of this. That family is not about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who values you, who doesn't replace you the moment you become inconvenient. My parents chose Jessica over me. They chose her comfort over my sense of belonging, and they have to live with that choice for the rest of their lives because I'm never coming back and they know it. Jessica is still in prison, and my parents are struggling financially, living in a small apartment that they can barely afford, and they have no one to blame but themselves because they had a daughter who would have done anything for them, and they threw her away for someone who was never going to appreciate what they sacrificed. I don't wish them harm. I don't wish anyone harm, but I also don't feel sorry for them because they made their choices, and I made mine, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away and never look back because you deserve better than people who treat you like you're replaceable. The best revenge against a family that chose someone else over you is to become so successful, so independent, and so happy that they realize exactly what they lost, and then to give them absolutely nothing because they don't deserve your tears, your time, or your forgiveness. Family is not about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who values you, and who doesn't replace you the moment you become inconvenient. The best revenge against a family that chose someone else over you is to become so successful, independent, and happy that they realize exactly what they lost, and then give them absolutely nothing.